So all of us at some point made the declaration as a kid, when I grow up, I'm going to be, and when I grow up, I'm going to have, and then reality takes place. And by your mid-20s, you realize your young ideas don't always come to fruition. Well, our next guest is helping people in their 20s navigate and conquer their quarter-life crisis. There's such thing as a quarter-life crisis. Eli Rallo's new book, Does Anyone Else Feel This Way?, is a collection of essays blending humor, honesty, and her own experiences to help others feel less alone. It takes a look at growing up, figuring life out, and finding your place in the world. And Eli joins us ahead of her book tour stop in her new home of Houston. Welcome to Houston.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, because you're an East Coast girl originally.
I am. And I still have an apartment up there. I'm up there a bunch, and my heart is there too. But it's really nice to have your heart in two places. Like, you don't realize how much love you have to give, I think, until you give that much love.
Yeah, and your heart is in two places because your heart is in also the person that you love.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the people that I love. I'm so lucky. I have seriously the best support system.
Yeah. All right. A lot of the things that you did as a kid, you didn't know were preparing you for this moment, because we decide we have other plans and then life takes over. You loved books and you were an avid writer at a young age. And at 8, you wrote your own book.
I did. I was the kid that was like writing books in my little journals and giving them to my parents, being like, I wrote a book. And they just didn't know what to do with that. My parents are really smart, but they're in restaurants and they're not, I don't know, they're not like literary obsessed the way I was at such a young age. I mean, they read me books, like parents read children books, but I kind of just took that and ran with it. So they didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah, because it's one thing to have a book read to you. It's nothing to read a book. It's nothing to create one. What was the storyline about?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. I think when you're so young, you're like watching movies and TV shows and then ripping them off. Like I'm going to write a script and it's claiming it's your idea. But it's just those early sort of building blocks that help you grow into something like this.
Yeah, you're talking about like movies and stuff like that. You're also a theater kid.
Yes, I am. That was the other thing I was obsessed with as a child.
You embraced that through college, right?
Of course, yeah. I majored in theater in college, specifically producing and playwriting and creative writing. So I was heavily involved in the theater world, and I still really am.
Yeah, and I think that theater is so important. I know sometimes it's kind of cast aside as just the elective, right?
Yeah.
But it does so much for kids. You have your master's in journalism from Columbia University, by the way. But when I say does so much for kids, growing up, you mentioned your parents had that family business, but you had some health challenges. And so your parents made you not feel like you were sticking out, but always fit in.
Yeah, no, it was, I think I write a lot about this in the book, the different ways that I felt isolated throughout mostly my young adult life. So, you know, probably like 18 up, I would say, is where this book sort of lands. And I think that now I've realized how much being individual can serve you as a person.
You had celiac disease.
Yes.
And so, but your parents like, okay, well, we can work with that.
Yes, and then I also write about an appendectomy gone wrong in the book. I write about a lot of women's health struggles like PCOS and endometriosis, things that I've struggled with, being really candid about. I think it's very helpful for women when you do struggle with health issues, mental health issues, to just be open and honest about them. And
you find out you're not alone.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I think, the thesis of the book, does anyone else feel this way? It's asking that question and just recognizing that you're not so singular in your experiences.
Yeah, that's one of those things I will say. The good part of social media can be when you say, does anybody else feel this way? And you find people who say, breathe a sigh of relief, you're not the only one.
Absolutely.
All right, so speaking of social media, your parents found creative ways to make you feel normal with the food. Like they would give you all these really cool gluten-free snacks in the big jar. And it became a childhood tradition with you and your 2 younger brothers getting your snacks out of that big jar. Well, the big jar took a life of its own.
It did. It absolutely did over the pandemic. I don't know where I would be if I did not accidentally post that first video to TikTok of this large jar of snacks, which sounds so ridiculous, but I'm proud of the way I've been able to sort of parlay it into something completely and entirely different.
Yeah, like snack on this. Okay, 1.1 million followers. Obviously, your content has changed. You went from the jar to Eli Rallo, and you're kind of described as the Carrie Bradshaw for the TikTok age, because what you offer by gathering all the information of everyone, feeling this way, is that you can help people navigate through some things. All right, you split your time between 2 cities, as we mentioned. Your fiance is from Houston, so you're here and then up there, but doing your writing in between all of that. Your debut book was I Didn't Know I Needed This, and that came from responses from your fans.
Yes, so many of my community members early on who followed me on Instagram and TikTok just wanted to talk about dating. And I loved talking about dating, and I was dating, and it was just like the perfect first book. I was very young when I wrote it. I was only 23 years old, which is so crazy, but
you were in the thick of it.
Yeah, I was in the thick of it, and so were my friends. And you know, now our conversations have shifted a little bit, and our priorities have shifted. And for many of us, it's still dating and it's still romance, but there's so much more. I think the world opens up to you once your prefrontal cortex develops, and you sort of like open your eyes.
Speaking of, what's kind of interesting is that, okay, so dating is a big topic of a conversation. It always has been, but it seems like it's so much harder today, even though we have more ways to meet people than ever. What's wrong?
Absolutely. I think it's just there's more going on. We were speaking about this before, but young women have so many more choices than they had before, so much more mobility.
Pause on that for a second, because what used to happen, literally, it was like you would leave your daddy's house and go to your husband's house, and then you know, early man, it was like 12 years old, you had a kid and you died by 25.
Yeah.
Longer life today, more choices today. Women can have children on their own today.
Yeah,
a lot of things
there's
can happen
a lot
today.
of mobility and a lot of flexibility, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Like, as somebody who's like proud feminist, proud supporter of women, like I think that's a wonderful thing. But I also think it can be stressful when you have so many decisions and so many choices in front of you that you never really had before.
The conflict between what society is expecting you to do and what you would want to do, right? Your new book, Does Anyone Else Feel This Way? And so those are essays on conquering the quarter life crisis. And it's funny because I think all of us remember the quarter life crisis, but no one put their finger on it.
No, everyone talks about the mid.
Yeah.
But no one's really talking about the quarter.
Yeah. All right. So in that, what are the biggest things that the quarter lifers are dealing with?
I think there's a lot. I mean, there is dating. I think there's friendship as a really big one. I think there's the idea of purpose and what you want to do with your life. I think there's mental health, physical health, family struggles. I mean, it's just everything. I think it's just opening your eyes to the world and realizing like you're an adult now and sort of anything goes. So what is it that you want to do with your life, and how are you going to achieve
and struggling
that?
with the launch, right? The failure to launch type of idea. You know, you thought you would feel a certain way. You know, you had dreamed, because like I started out by saying, a lot of us have said, when I grow up, I'm going to, we have it all planned out, but then life has other plans for you, right?
Absolutely.
And so you thought you had the cool job, amazing apartment, friends and fun and flirty date nights and the whole bit. And then you had this crippling social anxiety, and you throw social media into the mix on that side of things. And that's where we're having a battle.
Yes, an absolute battle. It can be so overwhelming, and I'm glad I was able to put voice to it through the essays.
Yeah, all right. So what do you want people to get from this book, which I think that should be in every young person's, and then we can reread it in our midlife crisis and then our other crisis, right? So, but what do you want them to consider this book as?
I'm just hoping that it causes people to feel a little bit less alone in their emotions. I think that it can be so isolating to feel a certain way and then also feel that you're the only person that ever felt that way.
Yeah.
And to be afraid to be vulnerable about it, which is a really okay thing. So I'm hoping that when people pick this up, they just feel a little bit less alone in whatever they're feeling and going through.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Eli Rallo has an event tomorrow night at Palmer Memorial Episcopal Church at 7 p.m. Every ticket includes a signed hardcover copy of Does Anyone Else Feel This Way? If you can't make the event, you can also find her books wherever books are sold. For more information, visit greatdayhouston.com, and we will connect you. And now that you're spending more time in Houston, we'll have to get you back on.
Yes, thank you
All
so
right.
much. I appreciate it.